Energy leak number 2. What race are you running? What race are you running? Are you running a sprint or are you running a marathon? Some of the most important work I do with caregivers is to help them transition from running a sprint to running a marathon. Now, of course, when a crisis hits your friend or a member of your family, of course you go into sprint mode. I mean, there's a lot to figure out, there's a lot to deal with, there's a lot to coordinate in a very concentrated amount of time. However, if you are a very powerful sprinter, your tendency might be to keep adding laps.
I just need to get Mom through her next round of physical therapy. I just need to keep going until we finish fixing the bathroom. I just need to hold it together until after her birthday.
There comes a time, though, when the acute crisis has actually passed and you need to adjust your pace. To sustain yourself, you need to be able to switch from sprint mode into marathon mode. Now, there may come a point where you have to switch back into sprint mode, but you only want to be sprinting when you have to be sprinting. Sprinting is a short burst where you give it your all. You may be able to sprint for 4 weeks or 4 months, but you're not going to be able to sprint for 4 years because sprinting demands your full focus and it drains you mentally and physically. Realistically, most of caregiving is a marathon, and caregiving is not the only thing in your life that needs and deserves your attention. How this guidance helps you conserve your mental energy. Marathon mode requires less energy than sprint mode. And yet no one is going to force you to adjust your pace. The only thing that will force you to adjust your pace is your own body, and there's no need to get to that point. Also keep in mind that it's risky to only monitor your physical exhaustion. You are more likely to get mentally spent before you get physically spent. And when our mental energy tanks are low, we caregivers tend to get snippy and brittle and resentful and uncompassionate. So, sprint when you need to sprint, but then learn how to give yourself permission to shift into a lower gear for the rest of your day in and day out caregiving experience. Learning how to do that will conserve your mental energy. Where you might get stuck applying this guidance. Adjusting your pace is less about adjusting your to-do list and way more about adjusting your mind. I fully understand the powerful gravitational pull that keeps you doing, sprinting. The power and strength of that gravitational pull is made up of the stories that you're telling yourself. And learning how to give yourself permission to switch from sprint mode into marathon mode requires that you examine the stories that you're telling yourself and create some new ones. Now, that process can be a little sticky because some of your stories may have deep, unconscious roots. So it can be really helpful to have a coach or a therapist guiding you through this process. Maybe you have a story around what it means to be a good daughter, your own story or your family's story or your culture's story. Maybe you're telling yourself that if you can be a top-notch caregiver for this person, then you will receive top-notch care from others when your time comes. Or perhaps you're telling yourself that it's completely possible to continue your life doing business as usual if you just power through and squeeze this caregiving stuff into the cracks. There are countless stories that keep caregivers running themselves ragged. Deconstructing your current stories, the ones that are making you feel stressed and heavy and anxious, and creating a new set of stories that make you feel better, that is how you are going to be able to apply this guidance of giving yourself permission to shift from sprint mode into marathon mode. How to start experimenting with this guidance. So, what's a teeny tiny safe experiment that you can do so you can see what happens if you start shifting into marathon mode? I suggest starting with an experiment around shifting your expectations. I know that a lot of my personal sprinting was fueled by the story, I have to get all this stuff done, which more accurately translated to, I want to get all of this stuff done. And the reason I wanted to get it all done was because I was telling myself a story that life will implode if I don't get it all done. Your thoughts, your stories are causing you stress. And you're probably telling yourself stories that aren't true. But the only way you're going to know for sure that they're not true is if you challenge them. So, for the next couple days, I want you to make a to-do list each day that is a very short 3 to 5 things that are the most important to-dos for you to get done that day. And then I want you to choose which item on that list is the least important to get done that day. Yes, you have to force your mind to choose. And then I want you to create a story that is 100% true of why the world will not implode if you don't get that least important to do done today. Notice the resistance or discomfort that bubbles up when you even think about slowing your pace or shifting your expectation that you can get everything done every day. I often have my caregiver coaching clients do this experiment because it really reveals any sticky inner knots that they have around guilt or perfectionism or productivity or trying to save the day. And then we can work together to untie those knots. Sticky knots take time to untie, which is precisely why I designed You First, my group coaching for modern caregivers, in the way that I did. I wanted to make coaching with me affordable for you over a longer period of time. Don't get me wrong, a single private session with a good coach or therapist can certainly be useful to any caregiver. Even better, though, is for more people to be able to invest in coaching for a while. So you have the space and the time to learn new approaches and try them out, to do experiments and make adjustments so that you can create shifts inside of you and outside of you that will last. Positive and permanent shifts in your thinking and your doing that will actually change the texture of how your life feels.